I typically don't like the questions about, what are the top three, because they change all the time. But I do think that one of the particularities of fintech is that in most cases, in one way or another, you're going to touch on regulatory issues. Even if yourself or as a company are not subject to specific regulations, you're in a highly regulated industry. So consequently, the ability to explain how you comply with regulation or don't comply with regulation but may not necessarily need to is, call it a communication challenge. Because in the world of fintech, I think that there's an inherent grouping of traditional business models that people already understand, whether it's regulators, your bank partners, enterprise customers, that have certain expectations of how things should work. But in the case of fintech, they might not actually work that way. So that's definitely one challenge. I think the other challenge that you have in the case of fintech is you have to have contextual understanding, in my opinion, of what are the incumbent industries, of how the system currently works, rather than necessarily expecting it to be completely disrupted. So a challenge then becomes finding people that have the knowledge base from a talent and recruitment perspective, that have the knowledge base to understand how financial technology works, how the financial system works, but yet at the same time are creative and entrepreneurial enough to work in a startup environment, because it's not, let's say, like other industries which are not nearly as regulated, where you can come with very little background. I think the other challenge that fintech has is trust is fundamental to an ability to acquire customers. Because ultimately, as everyone always says in the fintech world, a vast majority of people say, it is money. And people take money very, very seriously. And as a result, call it, unlike other companies that perhaps can go out with a beta version or can have a version that doesn't necessarily work, in the case of financial services, it has to work, and it has to work from day one. And that is a huge challenge when it comes to very high expectations. And it also means that it's a very significant challenge from an engineering perspective, because you don't have room for error as you would perhaps in other industries.